Hey everyone, and welcome to Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, the author of Unprocessed, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss and Own Your Health, and this is where I show you recipes for healthy, permanent, and sustainable weight loss. So today I'm going to show you one of my favorite recipes, my apple pie muffins, and they're really easy to make from a few simple ingredients. So I start out with 3 bananas. Always make sure your bananas are really ripe because you want these sweet, because I love to sweeten with the fruit, the whole fruit, nothing but the whole fruit. And I love to use dates, but I know they're a little bit more calorically dense, and so I use bananas because they're super sweet when ripe and much lower of a caloric density. If you don't like bananas or can't eat them, I'm sorry, I don't know a sub, because they're so neutral and so good in baking, because they also provide the moisture that oil would provide without the calories. So I'm just going to take a potato masher and I'm going to just mash these bananas with my applesauce. And my applesauce is made from just apples. You can buy it in the store that way, or if you have like a Nutri-Milk machine, you can easily and very cheaply make your own. So I am just going to mash the applesauce unsweetened with the banana. And that's what you do. I usually get Charles to do this because I'm too lazy. It's too much work, but anyway, it's very simple. It mashes up very quickly. Always make sure that if you're using bananas in desserts, they're super ripe, you know, where the black spots are there and prevalent, because if not, they just won't be very sweet. So you can see I just mix that up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a puree. I suppose you could do this in a food processor, but why bother? Then you have to clean it, right? So there we have our apple and banana puree. And now I'm going to add my other ingredients. A lot of people that follow me on Instagram ask where I get these Lazy Susans. I get them at Kitchen, and I've had the owner on the show before, and I think you can still get a discount there. These are beautiful. They're painted by an artist named Sticks. And so what I'm going to add now to this is already measured out. It's my oats, my vanilla powder, and my cinnamon. And I'm going to put that in. I love to use the Saigon cinnamon from Local Spicery because it tastes like sugar without sugar, or you could use their apple pie spice. It's fantastic. And I'm going to mix that in. It smells really good. The quality of the spices really do matter, in my opinion. And we just mix this in by hand. I prefer not to grind my grains into a flour. However, oats can be very gummy if used like this. So what I do like to do is to mitigate it with just a little bit of millet flour. For some reason, it takes care of the textural problems, and you can just buy whole millet and grind it yourself. But that is obviously your choice. It is the equivalent of having 2 teaspoons, not tablespoons, 2 teaspoons of flour per muffin. And even though I would consider myself flour free, I can live with that. So we have a nice little batter right here. And I'm going to add my yellow raisins. I really recommend yellow raisins over any other color, because not only are they sweeter, but I think they look better, but they just taste better. They just taste sweet as opposed to tasting, you know, that kind of raisiny prune-like flavor. So that, and then because you can't see them, it's kind of fun. Like you get a little surprise in every bite. And you can get these just at the local store. We have Winco here. So now you can see how beautiful my Lazy Susan is now that everything is off it. So what would apple pie muffins be without apples? If you can get a really sweet apple, the Envy is my favorite, and yes, they do come organic. This is quite a small one. I was a little bit disappointed because the bigger the apple, the better. But one of the secrets is to chop it really finely, because then you get it dispersed in every bite, small bits of apple rather than big chunks that kind of fall apart in these muffins, because I'm not using any baking powder or baking soda or salt or anything like that. So this is also from Kitchen. It's a place I teach cooking, so if you live in the Coachella Valley, you might want to come check it out there. I love this because it makes 16 slices instead of 8, which is great, especially for me with my healing TMJ. And then I just use this little tool called the Vidalia Chop Wizard, which actually I'm sure they sell at Kitchen, but you can also get it at Bed Bath & Beyond on Amazon. And what I love about this, whether I'm slicing apple or slicing onion or zucchini, it comes in different sizes, the grates, but everything is like perfect. It's the same. And when when I use a knife, I can't get things exactly the same size. So I could have done this in advance, but you know, an apple will oxidize if it's cut in advance. So I figure I would show you. Good workout, by the way, to do this. And this is kind of cool because it's got the measurement on the side. So if you're doing a recipe that calls for a certain amount of cups, it's kind of a cool tool. I've had it for years, and I love tools that make my life easier. Speaking of which, one of the tools we're going to use is a silicone muffin tin or pan, and I'm going to link to the one I use below, because when you do oil-free cooking or baking, it's so much easier, because I don't want to be using parchment paper. It's not fair to the environment to have to do that every time or use those cupcake liners. So that didn't take too long. Oh look, and it's like perfectly, it's just a little over 2 cups. But I always look for the biggest apple I can find, and of course the sweetest, which in my opinion is Envy. And there we have all these perfect chunks. They're all look a little bit the same size. And so I'm going to put that in here now. And you know what I've done with these muffins, as weird as this may sound, because it's an apple pie muffin. When strawberries are in season, I sometimes put strawberries in too. So you can see how beautifully it disperses, because I cut it so small. So this is one of the secrets. So I'm just mixing it in. You know, it's so hard for people to find sodium-free baking soda and baking powder. It is available, you know, at many of the health food stores and online. And I find that with this type of like a muffin, you're not going to get like a light and fluffy thing when you're using unground oats and these kind of ingredients. So I just figured, you know, I just stopped putting it in pretty much. Different if you're baking a cake or something like that. So then I take another wonderful tool, a scoop. This way I can get each one the same size, and then I can always add to it. And I just try to fill them all the same size so that they'll bake evenly. And one thing about baking evenly you may want to know is, one of the secrets is to get an oven thermometer. I used to be an apartment manager many years ago, and people would get new ovens when they moved in and said, it doesn't work. And I would take up my oven thermometer and find out even sometimes it wasn't calibrated correctly. So if your if this is a 350 degree recipe, your oven may be 310, it may be 370. So it's really important to know what your oven is, especially if you find your recipes aren't turning out the way they should. So then I just make these even. And you know, people a lot of times ask me about convection oven, and I have one, but I don't use it because, well, I mean, I could. Convection oven, when I used to be the pastry chef for 5 years at a Los Angeles restaurant, our oven was convection oven. We had an oven thermometer hanging right there, so we didn't have to wear one in our chef coat. We just always knew what the temperature was. So when you translate a recipe, because I write it for people that don't have convection ovens, because I would guess that most people probably don't. I mean, especially if you live in an apartment that you're renting, it's very unlikely that you would have a convection oven. I know a lot of the newer construction do put that in, but it's basically, you take it and you lower it by about 25 degrees, and you lower the baking time or cooking time by about 25%. So my recipes are always written for regular ovens. So if you have a convection and you want to do that, you'll have to translate it yourself. And so these are going to bake. My oven is already being preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to bake these for 25 minutes. One of the things I always recommend is never rush it, like meaning I know you want to eat it when it's hot, but let it cool. I usually let it just cool and finish in the oven. Well, actually, because I use the Breville as my oven, it turns itself off, which is great, so I don't ever overcook anything. And then really wait before you try to pop them out, and then you'll find they won't stick. When people rush it, they go, oh, it's stuck. Well, it's because you tried to take it out before it was ready. So we just want to make these even. This smells really, really good. These make not only a delicious dessert, but it can be a great breakfast, because basically it really is just fruit and oats. So I'm going to pop these in the oven for 45 minutes. I'm going to let them cool, and then I'm going to show you how to take them out. So while these were cooling, I got a text from my friend Nan. You may remember from the best ever ranch dressing episode. It's her recipe, because I had given her some yesterday while I was testing it and I wanted her opinion. And she said I should call these apple fritter muffins. And she loved them, but she said her husband Tim didn't think they were sweet enough. And depending on, your palate or how long you've eaten sugar-free, if you do eat sugar-free, they may not be sweet enough for you. They're really sweet for me because of the raisins. So what you could do if they're not sweet enough, and I'll put this below under the video in the show notes, is take some of the applesauce away and substitute date paste. I would start with maybe 4 tablespoons of date paste and 3/4 of a cup of applesauce, because I think they're really sweet. To me, ripe bananas, raisins, and applesauce is super sweet, but a little bit of date paste goes a long way. So I'd start with maybe 4 tablespoons. Definitely wouldn't go up to more than 8. But I would try them the way I wrote the recipe first to see if you like them. Now, if you really let them cool, not just cool so that you can touch this, but let them cool for a few hours, look at how easy they are to pop out. Boom, just like that. If you try to take them out while they are still cooling, they sometimes fall apart, and that's what I see what happens when people are impatient. So they smell really, really delicious, and these freeze great. Almost every muffin freezes great. And no, these are not light and fluffy like a 600-calorie Costco muffin. These are dense, but they're also very moist, and they could be a great on-the-go breakfast or travel snack or dessert. So there you have it. Apple Fritter now is the new name, Apple Fritter Muffins. I hope you'll try this recipe. If you try it, you'll let me know. I hope you will like it. And thanks so much for watching another episode of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, and I truly believe you can have both the health and the body that you so richly deserve. And I like to think that I make healthy taste delicious. Take care, everyone.